So a comment in a previous video about my A500 had mentioned that I said I was going to service the floppy disk drive in it, and I had actually forgot to do that while I had the unit open. So I'm going to go ahead and do that today. My A500 has Torx screws in it. They're T10 screws. So of course I'm using a Torx bit to remove them. A comment about bits and toolkits. I picked this little set here up for $15. It's got a nice selection of Torx head and little nut drivers and screwdrivers with the slot in the middle, and just all kinds of really nice stuff, little star bits and little nut drivers, etc. And it's actually been a really good little set. Again, I think this is a worthwhile investment if you're going to do any kind of work on machines when you need a specialty screw. So, you know, this for me was a good investment. They've turned out to be decent tools. They've lasted me a nice long time. Haven't broke one. The hand grip on them's decent. Let me get all the screws removed here. And we'll go ahead and flip the case over and take the top off. You know, as for these bits, there's no brand on them. Oh, that's for hanging it on a shelf for sale or storage. Yeah, there's no brand name on them. I have no idea who manufactured them. Like I say, they're inexpensive, $15. Yeah, there's just nothing to indicate a brand, so I'm sure they're Chinese. Go ahead and sit the case top aside, and I can see I've got some more rust. I get clean out of that case top I need to clean out. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the keyboard. I can get on that screw just to give me a little better access. I don't know that I'm going to need to remove the floppy drive from the system to do this. I actually don't think I will. Don't have enough space to lay stuff down. So of course we've got the floppy drive here. On the sides of the floppy drive, for my drive, there's these little metal tabs, and hopefully they somewhat show up. And there's a couple of tabs here on the back that, if they're sprung out a little bit, will allow this little sheet metal top to come off. Maybe. Of course, it's going to make a liar out of me. Why are you being so stubborn? That side's up. I can't get in behind this little tab. There it goes. To kind of get it to come up. And there's a couple more similar tabs on the front of the drive that usually can just be popped up off like that. I've seen some video of A500s without the metal top on the drive. If you have the metal top, I recommend keeping the top on. First thing it does is it keeps dust from settling through the cooling vents down into the drive. Dust is your enemy in these drives. I know in the previous video I had commented that this drive sounded funny to me. It may just be inherent in the drive itself. With most drives, you can carefully kind of lift the head up a bit here. Again, I don't know if I can get this in video or not. There's an upper head that I'm actually... Be careful with metal tools. You don't want to actually touch the ceramic head. But there's an upper head that I can flex up and down, and a lower head. And I can see that these are somewhat dirty. Let me spot the alcohol. This is technical grade, it's 99.9% ultra pure. Isopropyl alcohol for electronics. I recommend getting alcohol that is really graded for electronics with the ultra pure. That way you're not leaving contaminants behind when the alcohol evaporates off. I've just poured some alcohol down into the cap. Don't know that I've got this all in video. Let me stand up and take a peek at the framing. I think we're good. And all I'm going to do is wet the tip, put a little bit of alcohol in that lower head, let it sit for a second, and just lightly scrub. I can see that the white ceramic has lightened up a bit. The oxide on the floppy disk will, over time, leave deposits on the head. The upper one's a little harder to get at because you can't really see it too well, but I'm going to do the same thing on it. Now this upper head floats as I'm touching it, and you can't see this. The little head itself is rocking around, and so you need to be careful here you don't catch it on the side with the Q-tip and tear it off. That upper head floats in there in most drives. It doesn't really take much to clean. If you're not seeing pretty white ceramic, that may be an indication the head is really dirty and just requires extra care. Now looking down into the drive, this one isn't particularly dirty inside. It's not dusty. So looking at the drive here, there's a stepper motor with a worm screw here that moves the heads back and forth. On that side they ride on that. In this drive there's a little steel shaft down here pretty deep. That's the other side, so that the heads slide on that shaft back and forth on this side, and on this side the worm screw. And I'm going to go ahead and add some lubricant to both of those. If I can, I may add a little bit of lubricant in other places in here. There is some corrosion in this drive. It's not bad. Another thing to note is this flex cable here. It's fairly delicate. It's what connects the heads to the drive electronics. Don't unplug the connector down here. Just leave it plugged in, and just kind of be careful around it. You don't want to, I could grab this with a screwdriver and destroy this drive with a scratch up that flex connector. So just be aware of it. Don't really need to do too much to it. I'm going to set the alcohol aside. And I think I'm going to, so there is some lubricant, old lubricant, that seems really dried out on this worm screw, and it really is. And I'm going to see if I can, just a little dab of alcohol, if I can knock some of that off. And I've got some of it. And I'm going to, yeah, you can see that the Q-tip has turned black from the dust and whatever it's picked off up there. You don't want to leave lint, copper fibers behind. I'm kind of working blind there, but I'm just going to hit this little shaft down here as well. Good thing about the alcohol is it will evaporate. That didn't pick too much up. I'd really like to step the drive out. And as you're seeing me do here, I can manually touch the worm screw, and that'll move the head forward. And again, there's some dry, kind of crusty lubrication back here that I'm just going to clean out as best I can. And again, you can see how black what came out of there is, and that's just because it's collected dust and dirt, etc., over years of use. So I'm just trying to remove as much of that as I can so that it doesn't contaminate, say, the fresh lubricant I'll put in. I'm still getting lots of just black. Lots of black nastiness out of there. I am wetting the Q-tip. I realize it's off camera. I'm not soaking it. I'm just dipping the tip in and just wetting it gently. And for me, it looks like most of that has come off. I can see a little bit of it still down in the thread there. I can see that cleaning up out of there, so I'm happy with that. That's obviously better than it was. Don't have a lot of dust laying in the top of the drive here to clean out, and that's partly because this top cover's been kept on, as I mentioned earlier. The other thing this top cover does is it basically seals the drive up as a Faraday cage, so it reduces RFI getting into the drive and causing random read errors. I recommend, if you have the top, keeping it on the drive. Now the inside of this top is pretty nasty along here, and I think I'm going to see if I can clean some of that out. Looks like the alcohol does break down whatever that is. I'll wipe what I can out, and then I'll come back with a paper towel here. Hopefully I've got a roll of paper towel hiding back here. There's no towels on the roll. Let me go grab some paper towel. And all I've really managed to do with the alcohol is smear that around. It almost looks like maybe old lubricant, but we can get that wiped out of there. That knocked a fair amount of it out. I'm going to take another base paper towel. I'm going to wet it in the alcohol. I don't think this was a necessary step, but since the drive's open, why not clean whatever that material was out. The cover set on this way, and that material was along the bottom edge of the drive, and that's where all of the rust and corrosion we had in the system originally was. And we can see that there's corrosion on this screw mechanism here. That's got the spring on it that kind of latches the door open and closed as the disc goes in and out. So I don't know what that was or where it got picked up from. There's also a fair amount of corrosion on the stepper motor here, but the drive seems to run okay. And I'm not going to try to remove that corrosion off the drive. I don't want the alcohol to dissolve that and carry it down inside of the stepper motor and perhaps contaminate the bearings. You know, this little stepper motor looks like it's pretty sealed overall, and I'd rather not let the alcohol, like I said, dissolve something on the surface and get it down inside of the stepper motor and perhaps gum up one of the bearings in it. So overall, I'm happy with that. That cleaned up pretty well. I think I'm going to go with the top side here too, just while I can. See what I can remove, if anything. Not a lot coming off of there, but another. Oh, that actually has smeared something around on there. Time for a fresh paper towel. I mean, no reason not to clean things up when you got it apart if you can. I've actually just noticed here that this little RF shield is bent here on the back, and that may be part of what made it so difficult for me to get it back off. I'm just going to flatten that back out as best I can. I really don't think that was an intentional bend. You know, it's just probably from rough handling of the drive and possibly my rough handling of the drive. More cosmetic than anything else. Yeah, I can see that's still flexed in a little bit. Just a word of caution. I don't know if you can see the little cut here on my hand. I managed to cut myself twice on the RF shielding inside of here when I was cleaning it. Edges can be sharp, so just be careful of them. Let me grab a disc. Wipe the dust off the top of that. And we looked at this drive mechanism book before, and it's nice and solid, it's nice and positive. It's not sticking when it releases the disc. I've had issues with that before on other drives, and this one just seems fine. So I don't see a reason to kind of dig deeper on and lubricate. You know, there's points that move against each other down inside of here that I really can't get at, and I'm not going to attempt to lubricate those. Just don't see a need to. All of that moves absolutely fine. I'm going to use a white lithium grease. It's water and heat resistant. The reason I'm not using like a 3-in-1 oil or a light machine oil is that oil will collect dust and become gummy over time. This is really, you know, remove any excess dirt as I've done and apply an even light film on surface, wipe off excess. It's a little difficult to get in here and really get a nice clean you know, application. I end up just putting some on the shaft and then letting the shaft kind of move the grease back and forth. This wasn't that expensive. I got this, I think, in an auto parts store here in the US. And it's just white lithium, and it's my preferred lubricant for this kind of work. I'm sure other people will comment that it's the wrong stuff to use. You can see it needs to be mixed up in the tube a bit. See if I can. All I saw was a bunch of yellow something there coming out of it, which it should be much wider than it was there. See if that's any cleaner. Yeah. I'm going to wipe that little bit off the tip here and get down to the clean white. That's better. Going to pick up a very small amount, and I'm going to put it on the shaft on that side, and on the shaft on this side, and I've got way too much on there at this point. And I'm going to try to get a little bit on that slide down inside of here on the other side of the head. This is a little more difficult to get into because I can't easily get to the bottom of it. Again, I've applied way too much. Way too much. This stuff gets everywhere. Make sure it's off your fingers, off the cap of the tube, and the next step here. Going to be, I can get the right power supply. I'm going to go ahead and plug the unit in. So you can sort the cords out. Power brick is off. I have a hard time finding the power back here without looking. What should happen here when I power the unit up is, of course, the a workbench will come up out of ROM and it'll move the heads back to track 0 to attempt to boot. At least it should do that. So right now the heads can't step because there's no disc in it. I believe that's what's going on, so I'll put a disc in. And there you saw it step back. And it's attempting to boot from that disc. And then what I'm going to do is go ahead and manually work the little stepper worm gear here with my fingertip. To get the head out as far as I can. That seems to be about as far as I can actually get it to go by hand. I don't know if I can get a light grip back here and rotate it manually. It's not the best tool for that. I'm grabbing the shaft, not on the actual threads in the worm gear. I'm grabbing it right back at the base of the motor. They just kind of run out the track 80. You don't want to overdo this. If I've got enough exposed there I can get a finger on it, I can. Okay. I'm going to clean out a little bit of the lubricant. It's kind of balled up right there. And I'll just power up again and let it step the heads back. Again, it's trying to boot. I'm actually going to add a little bit more lubricant. Originally I put it on the two edges, or the two outer edges of the worm screw here. I'm going to add some to the middle where the head was originally sitting. Again, I've got way too much on there. It's hard to keep the amounts really tiny. Go ahead and step the head out again. Power's on, it should step back. That actually is sounding better than it did before. It's not as, it's hard to describe the noise this was making before. It just sounded kind of rough. Again, you don't want to drive it out too far. I'm turning the power off when I manually move the heads. So for me, that's about everything I can do on this drive. It was operational when I got it. I've cleaned it up a bit. I've added some lubricant. I guess the last thing to talk about here, and this might be the most controversial part of the conversation. Let me put the alcohol away before I spill it. Oh, crud, I just soaked my hand in alcohol. Oops. Last kind of thing to talk about are head cleaning kits. So this is a 3M brand head cleaning kit. I don't know when it was manufactured. I got it new old stock. Sealed still. Sometime in the last few years. It comes with two different discs, and we'll talk about why there's two different discs. And it had some little bottles of head cleaning solution here. And this head cleaning solution, I don't know what was originally in here. These had dried out over the time this thing was in storage, and I've just put some of that isopropyl alcohol we looked at earlier in these, which is absolutely fine for this. There's a little set of instructions. Your recommended usage once a week. I don't think so. But the thing to be aware of here is why there's two different cleaning discs. And we'll pull these both out and take a look at the actual difference between them. I don't know if the video is, I don't know if you can already see the difference or not. So on this one is for double-sided discs, and the reason I know it's for double-sided discs is the cleaning pad is fully exposed on both sides. This one's for single-sided discs, and it's kind of hard to see, but there's a little piece of clear plastic here attached to the drive that sits down inside. It actually covers this side of the cleaning pad. It covers it up with just a piece of plastic. On single-sided drives, there's usually like a little piece of felt on this upper arm, and that felt pushes through the disc to push the disc up tight against the back, you know, the head that's on the bottom. And if that felt actually rubbed up against the, you know, the abrasive pad here, it would rip the felt off potentially, or wear the felt down and actually make things worse in the drive. This is more true on 5 1/4 inch drives. You know, there's a lot of single-sided drives out there. I have a single-sided drive for my Atari ST, and a double-sided drive as well, so you kind of need to be aware of which disc you're going to use. This is an 880K drive on the Amiga, and I know just from that number it's a double-sided drive. 720K drive, you know, 3.5 inch 720K drive is again double-sided. When you get to a 3.5 inch drive that's 360K, that's a single-sided drive. You know, if there was a 440K variant of the Amiga, that again would be a single-sided drive. So you kind of need to be aware of which one you're going to use. There are people who swear these things are bad news and not to use them. I have used them, my God, since the 80s, late 70s maybe. The idea here is I'm just going to apply a few drops. I'm going to go ahead and throw it in the drive. The heads are now kind of soaking a little bit, and I'm going to manually step the heads out just because I can here. And when I turn the system on, the drive is spinning, that little disc is running up against the heads, and just let it run for a few seconds here, and done. So, you know, because these heads weren't absolutely filthy and nasty, this has worked well. On my A1200, I started having read errors on the internal drive and didn't want to open the case up, and I used this same disc, and that solved the issue instantly, honestly. So I have no problem using these. I wouldn't use them every week, certainly wouldn't use them every day, but occasionally, why not? I don't think they're going to damage anything as long as you're careful with the single-sided versus double-sided. So anything else to talk about here? You know, I can tell that even though video and stuff isn't plugged in, the workbench is up and running, because you can see the head stepping here, doing that tick-tick as it's trying to detect a disk change. Put everything away, so I'll have it all together for next time. Both of these bottles just have the same alcohol in them. Why it came with 2 bottles. I guess it would have been funny if there was a single-sided bottle and a double-sided bottle. It would have been stupid. But I first started using these head cleaning pads and 8-inch floppy drives on the DEC PDP 11 series of systems back when I was programming on those eons ago. So I think that's pretty much everything I can cover here. I'm going to turn the power off and unplug it before I put that top back on the drive. That's safest, that way I won't accidentally get the metal top down inside, and really the top will just press back down on. Make sure you get the tabs on the outsides. And that's it. Tabs are on the outside, all 4 of the clips have clipped in, and really that should be a happy drive at this point. Not really sure what else to talk about here. It's really a matter now of reassembling the machine. You saw I didn't need to remove the floppy drive to actually do the work, which is nice. Let me get the screw back. This connects this crazy heavy ground strap. Get that screw torque back in. Doesn't need to be super tight. Keyboard gets hung, and my favorite part, getting this stupid cable back on. Which is just ridiculously painful. Why aren't you trying to seat down on? There you go. Come down inside. I am off by a pin, I do believe. Yeah, I'm off by a pin. Always double check. That's why you double check. That is square across the connector and looks good. Well, anyhow, I will, I think, wrap this up here. I'll get the system put back together. I guess you don't need to really watch me put 6 screws back in. And call this good. So there is, you know, the basic work I did to service this drive. Anyhow, I'll end there and we'll talk soon. Bye.